A samurai once took 16 heads from the battlefield, earning him a reputation as the strongest warrior. Were samurais psychopaths? Why did they do this? The answers lie in the practical matter of identification, and beyond that, in the matter of honor. The man who took 16 heads was Bamboo Grass Saizo, an oddly gentle nickname for such a fearsome warrior. He is always depicted in pictures with a symbol. This symbol stems from his strange habit of placing grass in the mouths of his fallen enemies. When asked why, he replied,
"I had too many heads to carry, so I abandoned them. I hoped to offer them alcohol, but that wasn't possible on the battlefield. So, I offered bamboo grass, or sasa, instead. It sounds like alcohol, or sake."
His words carried an unexpected sense of compassion. So, what kind of etiquette was he hoping to observe? Simply put, the practice of collecting heads, or Kubijikken, was a way of identity verification before the age of photography. The process involved severing an enemy's head, cleaning it, attaching an ID tag, and presenting it for inspection. Then, a memorial service would be held with offerings such as sake. If the appraisal confirmed the samurai's achievements, his rank and rewards would increase. Now, let's take a closer look at this practice through the surviving records. We'll answer why and how this tradition began. A word of caution: if you are more sympathetic than Bamboo Grass Saizo, you may want to turn away after the scene. This is The Last Panda. This painting depicts a scene of negotiations between a lord and his subordinates after a battle. Oda Nobunaga is portrayed on the right, with Toyotomi no Hideyoshi on the left. The event shown is a Kubijikken ceremony, where subordinates present their war achievements, and the lord verifies their authenticity. The evaluation in this process determined the future income and status of each samurai. 3 centrally placed cylinders contained the heads of enemy officers, especially those who commanded troops. The name of the ceremony depended on the head's rank. For high-ranking heads, it was called taimen, which means interview. For lower-ranking heads, it was called kenchi, which means detection. This scroll painting depicts the identification ceremony of the Takeda clan. In order to verify the identities of the collected heads as those of high-ranking samurai, the lord, officers, those familiar with the enemy, and prisoners of war attended the ceremony. The participants were solemnly dressed in full armor and weapons as if preparing for battle. This served several purposes: to prepare for a potential enemy attack, to honor the fallen, and to guard against a counterattack from the severed heads. The severed heads were believed to possess supernatural powers, capable of moving or causing harm. Therefore, their display followed a strict etiquette. The head's eyes were concealed, and the face was turned to the side to avoid direct eye contact. The lord could only catch a glimpse of them through the slats of a fan. Meanwhile, one inspector held a bow, ready to release an arrow at a moment's notice, and another stood with his sword slightly drawn, ready to strike. This practice may seem bizarre and cruel by modern standards. However, the presence of key figures could significantly influence future events. In an era without photographic or video evidence, collecting heads and making identifications was considered important for accurate verification. At this time, the presenter makes offerings for the head and brings unglazed cups of sake to their lips as a final meal. If the deceased was of high status, kelp and other foods may also be offered. If you want to know more, please refer to the comments. Outlines the steps and conduct expected during this ceremony. The collected head was called shukyu. The word combines the characters for neck and class. The practice originated in a Qin dynasty law in China, where the presentation of an enemy's head earned a promotion. Over the course of the next millennium, Japan adopted its own system of identification. When a samurai defeated an officer, he would take not only the officer's head but also his helmet, as it provided crucial evidence for identification and subsequent reward. Samurai typically operated in groups, with one member acting as a witness to confirm the defeated enemy. Without a witness, the head could be dismissed as picked up from the battlefield or even stolen, denying any claim to credit. In the heat of battle, it wasn't always possible to take an entire head. In such cases, the nose and upper lip were taken instead. This practice focused specifically on adult males, identifiable by their mustaches, to the exclusion of non-combatants such as women and children. There were several methods of transporting these trophies, including tying the hair to a waist belt or placing it in a specially designed carrying bag. The samurai hung the officers' heads on the left side of their waists and the privates' heads on the right. The memoirs of a nun, Owan Monogatari, describe her experiences of the ceremony preparation. During the Battle of Sekigahara, Owan, a samurai's daughter, was given the task of caring for the heads of the enemies to make them look noble. This task was considered one of the duties of samurai women. She described her experience that although she gradually overcame her fear and got used to sleeping among the heads, she was disturbed by their stench. She would carefully wash away the dirt and blood, fix the hair, and apply makeup, including lipstick and teeth-blackening dye, to give the heads a more lifelike and dignified appearance. It should be noted that some upper-class samurai of the time, such as the nobility, painted their teeth black as a sign of status. At a time when dental hygiene was poor, teeth blackening could hide malocclusions and discoloration, and the dye had a preventive effect against bad breath and tooth decay. These types of makeup were also used on the living. Some high-ranking samurai would apply makeup and perfume to their hair when they went into battle, in case their heads were taken by the enemy. This is said to show respect for the enemy, who, if handling their head post-battle, would not have to contend with an ugly face or a bad smell. During, or before and after, the cleaning process, an identification tag was attached to each head. It was customary to use straight-grained wood for these tags, with the material varying according to the fallen warrior's rank. Mulberry wood was used for generals, while camellia or cedar was used for others. If the head belonged to an officer, the tag was tied to the hair on the left side, if it was a private, on the right, and if it was a monk, to the ear. When the head's name was known, it was written on the tag alongside the hunter's name. After all, high-ranking samurai often announced their names before battle. If the opponent's name was unknown, the space was filled with the head's number instead. Once prepared, the head was placed on a pedestal and presented to the lord, such as Nobunaga. Offerings such as alcohol were made for the head, followed by requiems that were performed by the monks present. Therefore, these ceremonies were usually held in temples. The temple where Yoshimoto's ceremony recorded Nobunaga's army capturing about 3,000 heads at the Battle of Okahazama. The most prized trophies were the heads of enemy commanders. In contrast, heads deemed to be of low status were evaluated by the quantity and inspected in groups rather than individually. The heads collected by bamboo Grass Saizo were likely not those of low-ranking soldiers, but rather, those of the 16 officers who had led their troops. Notably, one of the prestigious awards was given to the first warrior to take an enemy's head, regardless of the fallen enemy's rank. Those who initiated attacks were also highly regarded. Subsequent rewards were given to those who supported the first attack, those who defeated numerous enemies, those who hunted down retreating enemies, and so on. These incentives fueled fierce competition for enemy heads, motivating soldiers to actively engage in combat. After the inspection, the heads might be displayed as proof of victory, as warnings to war plotters, or, in some cases, even returned to their homelands for diplomatic purposes. This photograph, taken during the samurai era, is visually authenticated. Its display stand mirrors those used for the Takeda's documents. We tend to assume a corpse's face wouldn't retain any final expressions or identifiable features. Yet, in this state, the image suggests that battlefield identification was carried out with a chillingly high degree of accuracy. The samurai gazed upon them and imagined. They had witnessed thousands of fatalities, and the fallen had never stirred. Still, it was enough to make them believe in curses. The samurai read those lingering expressions as omens. If a head displayed an expression such as winking or looking to the left or up, it was considered a sign of bad luck. Opposite expressions were considered signs of good luck. Takeda's interpretations were slightly different. This suggests that interpretations varied by region. How the bodies were treated after the battle depended on the lord's disposition. Most of the time, however, the fallen were buried together in a large pit dug on the battlefield. Severed heads were collected, and a memorial mound was built for every 33 heads. Clearing the battlefield afterward was the responsibility of the victorious army. They often enlisted the help of local villagers who had watched the battle from a distance. As everyone was occupied with the post-battle scavenge, they were either given a few coins or allowed first pick of the good parts from the bodies. The ukiyo-e works mentioned here are discussed in the context of samurai wars in other videos. You'll find links to those videos below. Did you know that samurais used rice as currency and measured GDP in rice? If you'd like to learn more about samurai culture, a fantasy that was once reality, check out the videos. By the way, I bet you're wondering about this fishing photo. It's actually modified from photos taken by Felice Beato. See, this is how they got that weird hairstyle. You might ask, why not just let AI do it? Well, I have an art background, and I enjoy creating things by hand. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy using AI. However, I'm tired of seeing sloppy, mass-produced, AI-generated content. Efficiency is great, but my goal is to use AI creatively, to make something that actually feels interesting. This was a thumbnail idea I ended up not using. I still like it, though, because the relationship between the two objects fills the entire painting, creating a story. It's also based on Beato's photo. This scene was filmed in a studio. It was not an actual execution. After uploading my last video, I had a lot to reflect on. I was proud of the content, but the video didn't reach anyone. So this is why I made this. This one is direct in its expression. This point stands out for visual attention. The red effect? It's in homage to the special attack captions in the comic, Saint Seiya, Knights of the Zodiac. All of my friends and I grew up with it. We had our own Zodiac dolls and played with them. I'm a Cancer, by the way, you know. If you liked this video, check out our others.
Help motivate us to make more videos by liking and subscribing. Thank you for watching!